I'm going to have to, this yahrzeit shir will be somewhat abbreviated as I've been called away to be somewhere at noon. So we'll have to stop at 1:45, 10:02. And just my blessings to everyone for a Shana Tova. It's hard to believe, but it's 40 years this Yom Kippur that my mother is gone. So I've been in this world for more time without a mother than with a mother. And of course, there are so many people out there who have felt the absence of their mothers for much longer periods of time of their lives. I'd like to begin with a beautiful rendition of a song that my mother would always sing in the camp that my parents directed and ran, Machane Eshel, Camp Eshel. And on Friday, she would be dressed in white as the sun would be setting over the mountains. And she would sing these magnificent words of Bialik. It's a song of love, of Shabbat, which really was her credo and which influenced me so greatly. So sit back. I believe this is a Yehoram Gaon rendition of Bialik's Hachama Merosh Ha'ilanot Nistalka.
לקראת שבת המלכה, הנה היא יורדת הקדושה ברוכה, ועימה מלאכים צבא שלום ומנוחה. בואי 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 המלכה, שלום עליכם מלאכי השלום.
Listening to that song is really, for me, an emotional experience. I'm so grateful to all of you for giving honor to my mother. Some of you, like Ruby and others, met my Ima. And that song and the way she would sing it reflects who she was. She was a person of overflowing ahava. And that's what I'd like to talk about during this shiur, because her overflowing love has influenced me and my rabbinate and has made me realize just now that even as I venerate my teacher, my Rebbe, Rabbi Yashiber Soloveitchik, of blessed memory, whose writing and whose speeches and in the contacts I had with him had enormous influence on me, I've come to understand that I'm not precisely where he was. Most of the Rav's students, most of Rabbi Soloveitchik's students, if we were to ask them, what is it that animates your thinking, your rabbinate, your theology, I think they would say, in the spirit of Rabbi Soloveitchik, we call him the Rav, the Rabbi, it's an honorific title, the Ish Halacha, it's the halachic system. And I would have come to understand that that's not what's foundational for me. What's foundational for me, even more rooted, more basic than halacha, is Ahavat Yisrael, the unconditional love that I feel towards the Jewish people. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not mandated as if one can mandate a feeling of love. We have a responsibility to Ahavat HaBriot. When what's unfolding in Libya, the floods and the earthquake in Morocco, we have to be there and we have to be concerned. But I have a special love for the Jewish people. I don't think emotionally a human being can love everyone the same. That's why we feel unusual love for those who are closest to us, our spouses, our partners, our children, our parents, our grandparents, our grandchildren, our siblings. We feel a closer love to them than we do to our larger, even Jewish community. In a similar fashion, I feel a closer love to Am Yisrael. It's an emotional love. As Rabbi Soloveitchik, who had an enormous influence on me as well, the Rav's younger brother, it's an emotional love. I can't explain it. It's an understanding that for me, the Jewish people is not just the nation of Israel. It's the family of Israel. And I think in families that work, the challenge of family is not to love only when we agree, but it's to love when we disagree. Can we navigate our differences in such a way that we can sit on opposite ends of the political spectrum, and because we're family, still love each other? Many of you have heard me say that for me, the book of Genesis, Sefer Breshit, that we've studied together, it has so many themes, but its basic theme is one of family, broken families. But by the end of the Sefer, in that patriarchal society, the family was together. All of Jacob's sons stand around his deathbed and receive blessings that never happened before. For Abraham, it was Isaac and not Ishmael. For Isaac, it was Jacob and not Esau. For Jacob, all of his sons. And it's only when the family is together that Sefer Breshit, the book of Genesis, can come to an end. And Sefer Shmot, the book of Exodus, the book that talks about the birth of our nation, begins, teaching that the best model of nation is family. The best model of nation is family. And as a matter of fact, I have this as an exercise. When I've been asked in my activistic days, why run there? Why run there when a Jewish community is in trouble? My response is that when the nation of Israel or part of that nation is struggling, I substitute the word family for nation. For me, it's not nation, it's family. And once it's family, I try to act accordingly. I don't say this to impress. I know how truly limited my impact has been. And it's limited, very limited. But still yet, I want to share with people whom I love what pushes me. For me, the question was not, why go to Buenos Aires when the Almia was bombed by terrorists? For me, the question is not, why go to Israel after this terrorist bombing for a couple of days, on and on. No, the question is, how could I not go? It's my family. And so for the Rav, the foundation is halacha. For me, it's love. And no less a giant than Rabbi Kook says that the book of Genesis, whose covenant is the covenant of the pieces, chapter 15, he says that that covenant of Genesis, which I interpret to be the covenant of family, is Yoter Gadol V'Kadosh, is more important, more holy than the covenant at Sinai in chapter 19 and chapter 24 of the book of Exodus. The covenant of family is the base. It's the love of the Jewish people that animates, that opens up the flow, the fluidity for everything else. One caveat that's very important. This doesn't mean that halacha and the Shulchan Aruch is not important. The Shulchan Aruch is on my desk. It's very important. I'm always turning to the Shulchan Aruch, to the code of Jewish law. It's critically important. But I would argue that that is a core value, one of the most fundamental core values. And it is influenced, it's informed by Avat Yisrael. That is to say, when someone asks me this question or a question in halacha, I don't go to the book without looking or thinking about the eyes of the question, the situation, the condition of the person who's asking the question. Within the halacha, I see a psychology of life, which is given by God, and God says, I do it in partnership with you, with the people of the Rabbanan. And together, through the halacha, which means to walk, to go, we can march towards redemption. Well, let me put it this way. One could see the halacha as being an exercise of reading the letters, which the mystics call the black fire. For me, the halacha is also the white fire. It's the white spaces between the letters. They speak volumes. Is halacha a square which has those edges that can hurt our skin if we rub our skin over it too quickly? Or is, as I believe, halacha is a circle. It has boundaries, but it's a circle. It's softer. It's not only prose that we say, but it's a song that we sing as well. Avat Yisrael. And this foundation, whether I was conscious of it or not, I'm not sure I was always conscious of it, but it was always in me, which was, for all these decades, it's over 50 years, the base of the shul. What is the message of the shul? Of course, it's a place of halacha, but ultimately, the message of the shul is welcome, welcome, come in. We're inclusive. We're non-judgmental. Come in, however you are, whatever you're wearing, whatever your belief, whatever your politics, come in. I remember going many years back when, this is a long time ago, when the board of the shul decided to raise the dues from $18 to $25. I was very upset. I said, how could you do that? This is gonna push people away. So the Chevra asked me, I wasn't 30 years old yet. Well, what's your vision of a shul? We hope to build one. What will the building look like? And I still remember what I said. And I'm using first person too often, but I think you know, I don't mean this in a blown up way at all. I just am trying to give you a piece of my soul, which was so influenced by my Holy Mother. I said, for me, I hope the shul will be all glass. Why all glass? All the walls. So we could see outside, and those outside could see inside as our invitation. Come in. And secondly, I pray the shul have no locks. No locks on the doors, inside and outside. Certainly no locks on the Aron Kodesh, on the Holy Ark. And then I said, for me, the model of the shul is no membership dues. No membership dues. I think I can argue that in certain ways that could be a better business model. But we were known then. We were the shul that you come in and everything was for free. Something we insisted on. Free high holiday services, you remember? They still exist. Free Passover Seder still exists. Free Talmud Torah, Jewish Youth Encounter Program, J-Space Education. You remember, Ellen? For all of the kids, welcome, welcome, welcome. Standing up in front of many hundreds of people on the high holidays and saying, this service is for free. I only ask one thing of you. I hope you feel as welcome as we want you to feel. Now, I don't know how many of you know this history, but all the way back when we were thinking of building, this is now under the leadership of David Mann of blessed memory, of my mentor, Stanley Langer of blessed memory, of Hillel Jaffe, Badel Chaim Abukim. So the shul then bought a parcel of land. I'm not sure even Shuli knows this. It was a parcel of land behind what is now Menchie's on the Netherland Avenue side. We bought that piece of land for $125,000. And we only had the money to build beneath ground. So it was going to be beneath ground, coming about 2 feet above ground, and the 2 feet above would be all windows. At least we have some windows. But then we were going to build on 3 sides walls going up 16 feet. And into the walls were going to be emblazoned, carved the words, Tamu Ura'u Kitov Hashem. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Come in, take, please be part of us. And the goal was, whenever we could, to have services outside. Whenever we could. We knew during the winter we'd have to go downstairs, but whenever we could, Friday night services, Shabbat morning services, classes outside. I'm so indebted to Martin Zelnick, our architect of blessed memory. He lived with us in our home for 2 weeks. And he said, I understood your welcoming. And he came up with that idea. And we were ready to break ground. When at that point, Aaron Bennett, alav shalom, he found this parcel of land that we're now on. And we were able to buy that parcel of land for $175,000. Who knows how many millions of dollars it's worth then. Had he not come to us with that potential, we would have never built where we're building. And we struggled to sell the old parcel. We thought we could sell it quickly. Real estate was down. It was sold years later at a loss. We sold it for $90,000. I mention this because I want you to get a sense of how, with arms open, this theology of love was so central. And it's part of who we are today. Look at the synagogue today. When people walk into the shul, I try to suggest that the architecture of the shul, the architecture of the building, aesthetics are very important to me. These days in my life, poetry has become song, melody, writing has become very important to me. A couple of things about the architecture. First of all, I wanted women to be welcome. I grew up where women would sit upstairs on the side, couldn't hear, couldn't see. The men were front and center. For me, a mechitza is when people walk into the shul for the first time, that they do not know when walking in on which side the men or women sit. As a matter of fact, we often run a survey, and most people get it wrong. Most people think that the women are sitting as you walk in on the right side, when that is not the case. As a matter of fact, when we built the shul, I had this idea that we should switch sides every week, switch to show how equal it was. I would sit with my teacher, Rabbi Soloveitchik, and I would present these ideas to them. When I presented that idea, he just looked at me askance and he said, "Really? That's what you're going to do?" And so we didn't do it. And when you walk in, it's Rabbi off the bima. Why? Why is it Rabbi off the bima? Because that's not where the Jews sit, as Rabbi Yosef Kanevsky once said. We don't sit on the bima. That's not where the Jews are. I want to sit where the Jews are. I want to be the first to welcome the men and Toby the women during services and in a class to welcome men and women. To hug every person who's coming out of the shul. There are people who have told me they were in the community for 10 years. They don't remember a word I said, but they remember the hug. And it got a little funny. I would see a new face. I would sit next to this individual. And in those days, I was in the activist world in the papers. And I would say to this individual who knew my name, but not what I looked like, "Why are you here?" And they would say, looking right at me, "Well, there's a crazy rabbi here I read about. I want to see what he's all about." And then, of course, I greet him and then jump up to the front. And hopefully I would see him again. He wouldn't be too embarrassed that with that give and take. Rabbi off the bima, the ramps. You know, those ramps were expensive ramps, not only because they cost. I remember at the board meeting, I said, we need ramps so that we're accessible. And in those days, people had computers. And they said, well, according to New York City law, for every foot of elevation, the ramp has to be a foot. 18 inches for every inch, for every inch of elevation, the ramp must be a foot. 18 inches, 18 feet. Someone said, a beautiful person said, 18 feet, that's 7 rows. And it's wide, so it takes 2 or 3. That's 20 seats. And I remember then very sweetly, I said, you know, I'm the halachic authority here. I think that this is a question no less halachic than can I eat milchiks or fleishiks or the kitchen question. I think it's just as important. And Stanley looked at me and he said, Rabbi, do you mind if we take a vote? And I came to trust Stanley and I knew exactly where he was going. And of course, they took a vote and it was a unanimous decision. And as I left the room, I looked at it and I said, thank you. It shows values that we gave up 40 seats for the ramps. And people said, what do you mean 40 seats? It's 20 seats. I said, no. Whatever we do in the men's section, we have to do in the women's section. It's about welcome. Welcome. That's what we were all about. Central to the Bayit was the Special Friends program. Several hundred would come every second week. The Jewish Youth Encounter program, sometimes we would have 4 bar mitzvahs, but mitzvahs, a Shabbat, we moved it, creating different possibilities on a Sunday. So they didn't read the Torah, but it was a wonderful, wonderful Jewish experience for them. That's what we were about, the intergenerational, the program for older adults. In fact, I wanted it to be so welcome that I sat with Rabbi Soloveitchik and I said, I have an idea about the ark. Instead of the ark being where, by the way, it is now, I said to him, I'd like the ark to be more than one ark, 4 arks, and an ark in each corner of the shul, 4 arks. And he looked at me and he said, well, what is this about? I said, well, every week we'll take the Torah out, a different Torah, from a different corner. We'll take it out from the front right corner, then the back, then in the women's section, He truly looked at me like that was just too much. So he never said, don't do it, but I understood he was saying, don't do it. I thank my mother for that. I thank my mom for teaching me that unconditional love. And it's something in our family that's very deep. As I remember my mother and my siblings were so different from each other. My sister left Orthodoxy on the feminist issue. I'm so close to Toby, you can't imagine. I owe her so much. My brother, who's the most traditional of all of us, he would often call me and say, Avrami, what are you doing? They're going to kill you. Be careful. I love him. My sister, Suri. Suri is my spiritual mentor. She's not in the Orthodox world. She's in the renewal world, in the Rainbow Coalition. She is still a beautiful spiritual child of the 60s. She's a flower child, the sweetest, kindest person with her children and grandchildren, her story. If you want to read her story, pick up my sister's first book, Mara. It's all fiction, of course, but there's a lot of truth to it. And I have a younger brother who was smicha from Yeshiva University, but now is traditional egal. And my Davi, how I love him. We love each other unconditionally. And that really is what really so shaped my thinking. And it goes all the way back to my mom, to my father, for whom Orthodoxy was so important, but at the end of his life, when he left us spiritually, he said, yes, Orthodoxy is very important, but my children, whoever you are, whatever you are, your family, love each other. It's so very, very critical. And that's what I feel about the politics of Israel today. If I were younger, I would do all I can for a mass demonstration of Ahavat Yisrael, that we should be loving each other. Now, I'm not naive. I've been in the shuk in Yerushalayim, and when some holy Jew is trying to shortchange me, I would look up and I would say in my Englishised Hebrew, I would say, listen, lo noladati esmo. I wasn't born yesterday. Don't shortchange me. I know the world. I'm not a kumbaya person. I have strong political views, very strong political views. But with all my heart and soul, I believe that this is the time for all of us to come together. Like that video that went over the world where there was an escalator in Yerushalayim. There were people going up the escalator to the rally pro the government, people coming down the escalator to a rally against the government, and they reached over to try to give each other the high five. In the end, we're brothers and sisters. And yes, in spiritual activism, I write about that even in the activism, when we protested against the enemies of the Jewish people, the Soviet Union, the Brezhnovs, the Andropovs, the Putins, we were very rough. Short of violence, everything. We did some crazy things. I was never in jail long. I was arrested about 50 times, never for a long time. But the way we were arrested, I didn't realize it at the time. I felt invincible, but looking back, we were very vulnerable. But we did it. We were Meshugal Adavar, Glenn Richter and Yaakov Birnbaum, and yes, rabbis who did that as well. Rabbi Riskin, Rabbi Berman, Rabbi Greenberg, Rabbi Shear. We were Meshugal in Ladavar. But when it came to protesting other Jews, the rules have to be softer. And at Chata'ai Ani Maskir Hayom, there was an early time in my life that I didn't understand that. And I would yell out at Jews the most horrible things. And I think I was wrong. I think I was dead wrong. It's my inner family. It's my brother. And it's my sister. And so I wrote this piece on Avat Yisrael in the prayer that without attribution, it be used in synagogues all over the country. It's really written in honor of my mother. Whatever little I know about this is from her. And Elka of the Wexner world surprised me. I sent it to her. And Yafa, she sent it back and surprised me. And I like to show what Wexner did with this piece, which was translated into Hebrew by Professor Avigdor Shinan, whose Hebrew is so magnificent that every time he translates something of mine, I said, oh my God, now I have to rewrite the English. His Hebrew is so poetic. It's on another level. So let's take a look at it, a few comments on it, and we'll close the shiur. Should we?
A Pintele Yid, a lonely Jew, a vulnerable Jew.
הפינטלה ייד, יהודי בודד, יהודי שברירי.
A pintele yud, a lone mark, a tiny Hebrew letter.
הפינטלה יוד, סימן בודד, אות עברית זעירה.
A yud aside another, a Jew beside another, evokes the name of God in unity. God sees it is good.
ניצבת יוד בצד יוד, עומד יהודי בצד אחיו, ופורץ שם האלוהים באחדות. וירא אלוהים כי טוב.
Unity is never uniformity. Uniformity is uniform, crushing other views. Unity is unitied, united despite differences.
אחדות לעולם איננה אחידות, כי האחידות היא ריסוק של דעות אחרות. אך אחדות היא חיי יחד, למרות כל ההבדלים.
Dear, dear God, help us to know that Am Yisrael is more than the nation of Israel. We are family.
או אלוהים היקר, סייע לנו להכיר שעם ישראל הוא יותר מעם, שכולנו בני משפחה אחת.
And the test of family is not how we love when we agree, but how we love when we disagree.
ומשפחה נבחנת לא רק באהבתה כשכולה בדעה אחת, אלא כיצד היא אוהבת כשאין בקרבה הסכמה.
May we be careful with our words, for while a word is a word and a deed is a deed, words we say can lead to harmful, fatal deeds.
נקפיד על מוצא שפתנו כי בעוד מילה היא מילה ומעשה הוא מעשה, דברים היוצאים מן הפה עלולים להביא לתוצאות נוראות איומות.
May we not question the motives of the other, but instead listen to the other, learn from the other.
לא נערער על מניעיו של האחר, אדרבה, נאזין אל האחר, נלמד מן האחר.
Sing and dance the psalmist's dream. Behold how beautiful, how sweet sisters and brothers together.
נרקוד ונשיר את חזונו של המשורר, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Illuminate the Hasidic vision. Every yid has a single light that begins and ends, but together our lights fuse endless, eternal.
האר את חזונה של החסידות. לכל יהודי יש אור מיוחד משלו הנדלק ודועך, אך יחדיו מתמזגים אורותינו בלא קץ לעולמים.
With you, in unity, as family, in togetherness with light forever.
עמך באחדות כמשפחה יחדיו באור נצחי.
Help us declare I am a kitzoni, an extremist Jew, not on the right, not on the left, but an extremist in loving other Jews.
Azor lanu להכריז, כי יהודי קיצוני אני, לא לימין או לשמאל, אלא קיצוני באהבת אחי היהודים, אהבת ישראל.
The entire team at the Wexner Foundation wishes you and your family.
I'm so grateful to the Wexner Foundation, and we have just another few moments together. I really was squeezed into an appointment just with thank God, a very controllable medical issue. So I do want to ask, I believe that one of the great teachers of our community, Yafa, is Rabbi Yafa Epstein. And I know you have so much to say about this. And I'm wondering if I didn't warn you about this, if perhaps when I have to run, if we can open it up, and Yafa, if you could just for a few moments, it's not my way of just running, because this requires so much conversation and input, and many people on this Zoom are people who are my teachers, who influenced me to understand this as well. There are people on the Zoom, different beliefs in God, different commitments to halacha. For me, love you the same, and I'm learning from you, and I hope we're learning from each other. But I want to make just a few points about this, what I call prayer poem. So looking at it on the board, we'll just focus on the English. Now, a Pintele Yid, in truth, what that is about, a Pintele Yid is that every Jew has a spark. No matter how distant, deep, deep down, there's a spark. And all you have to do is, Elie Wiesel used to say, light the fire. We're taking it differently. We're taking a Pintele Yid to mean a Jew sometimes is little and vulnerable. I heard this from a young man who rose at the first international conference in Brussels for Soviet Jewry. He got up and said, I'm from Buenos Aires, and there as a Jew, I feel like a Pintele Yid, I'm so alone. But looking out at 6,000 people who were there fighting for the freedom of Soviet Jewry, he said, I've come to realize that one Yid, one Jew, with another Jew, one Yud, the letter Yud, a mark near another Yud spells the name of God. In Yiddish, they used to say, they still say, Tzvei Yuden, two Yuds, that's the name of God. And that's what this says. A Yud beside another, a Jew beside another, evokes the name of God. In unity, God sees it as good. That's a play on Genesis 1, Vayar Elokim Ki Tov. And then distinguishing between unity and uniformity, that was inspired by the rabbi's midrash that Sodom and Gomorrah, these were such evil places that when you walked into that place, they had a cot, let us say 6 feet long, and you lie down on the cot. If you were too long, they'd chop off your feet so you could fit perfectly. Too short, they'd stretch you. That's what we're saying. Uniformity is uniform. My sister, Suri, gave me that connection. Crushing other views. Unity is unitied, united. Dear God, help us understand. We're not only nation, but family. And as we pointed out, the test of family is how we love, not only when we agree, but when we disagree. And so may we be careful with our words. A word is a word. A deed is a deed. We know this. The greatest Chilul Hashem was the assassination of the Prime Minister of blessed memory. Words we say can lead to harmful, fatal deeds. And in those days, I led many demonstrations against Rabin and against Perez. I do remember times, this was already in the 90s, when people screamed, Rabin is a traitor, and I stopped them from the front, and they would scream, I'm a traitor. But I pray there was no time that I failed to do so. You know, we went to Oslo protesting the Peace Prize to Arafat, and it was in 93, 94, and we were arrested. We spent most of Shabbat in jail. I think that that impacted on my life very deeply. Talking to myself now. And when we hear bad words from the other side, I think it's more important to criticize those who are more in our political camp. Words can lead to harmful, fatal deeds. And may we not question the motives of the other. We should judge the other, the kafskut, as it says in the book of ethics. So Netanyahu gets up and he says, don't go to Uman. God didn't always protect Jews in Europe. And suddenly the Haredi world jump on him. judge him favorably. Maybe he didn't say it the way you would have liked him to say it. And in their response, yes, even judge them favorably. Even the Haredim, and I remember being at demonstrations, I'm coming, like my mother would want me, fully sharing with you. We'd be in front of the PLO office on 65th and Park every Sunday screaming at them, and out of the PLO office would come the Natura Carta. And people would yell at them in my demonstration, Shkotsim, Shkotsim. I asked them to stop. I went up to them and I said, why are you doing this? And they said, we're doing it because the Zionists are responsible for the death of so many Jews. And I said to them, I couldn't disagree with you more. Zionism is the savior of Am Yisrael. It's our insurance policy. It's where we have the potential to create an unbelievable state, to be an Or Lagoyim. But you know, I gave him a hug. And I said, as wrong as I think you are, you're my brother. And I try to judge him to say, and you're caring about Jews. You're saying what you're saying. Now, I have taken it very far. And I understand fully people disagreeing with me. And I've always felt that rules, you can always upset a rule by offering extreme examples. So even if you disagree with me on that, I still stand strong. We've got to learn to judge the other favorably. I'm especially saying this to myself as one who for years did not do so, and trying the best I can to do so. And then the flourish, sing and dance the psalmist's dream. Hinei matovu mana'im shevet achim. In the Hebrew, achim is generic, but we translated it sisters and brothers. The Hasidic vision. We say this under the chuppah. The bride, everyone has a light that begins and ends. The groom, light begins and ends. But now together under the chuppah, your light fuse and continue forever. We're saying this about every individual, endless, eternal. And then the synopsis, with you in unity as family, in togetherness with light forever. Join me as I read this with you. Help us declare, I am a Kitzoni, an extremist Jew, not on the right, not on the left, but an extremist in loving other Jews. Avat Yisrael. Yes, in our world where there's always a chumrah of the week, what is the stringency in the halacha that we've adopted this week? Let us all say, I am a machmir. I am stringent when it comes to loving my sister and brother Jew. Azor lanu lachriz, ki Yehudi kitzoni ani, lo liyamin u'lismol, ela kitzoni b'avat achai haYehudim, avat Yisrael. And so, Ima, so dear mother, and to all of your mothers, we say, I in particular say, thank you. Whatever little I know about Abba, about love, you taught me. And Abba, in his way, taught me. May your soul, Ima, rest in peace. How we miss you, how we feel your presence, how I feel you tapping me on the shoulder, always watching out for my welfare, always trying through your presence to show the way. And with that, I must part company by declaring and asking Shana Tova, asking for forgiveness if there's any way I didn't get back to you or wronged you. And truly, I do want to ask Yafa, who is such a dream and a dear colleague and means so much to me. Yafa, if you want to say a word and then open this up for discussion, please excuse me.
Thank you, Ravavi. Thank you so much. It was so beautiful. Really beautiful. Hi, everyone. I just came as a student of Rav Avi's
Hi, Appa.
Hi. I just came to learn from my teacher, Erev Yantif. So I don't have anything specific prepared, but maybe we'll just, as Rav Avi asked us, we can just open it up if people want to share reflections on that beautiful, beautiful tefillah of Rav Avi's. And please feel free to join in the conversation and share your
If you have
reflections.
any thoughts on this model of Avat Yisrael as the foundation informing halakha, which is a core value, does that resonate for you, Yaf? Or
I think it's so beautiful, and I mean, to me, what really I feel is just such gratitude to be your student in this path. I think it's certainly, to me, it feels so true to what the world needs right now. You know, I think there were times in Jewish history where we needed halakha to be the primary direction to lead us to Avat Yisrael, and then there are times like now where I think Avat Yisrael is really what we need to lead us to halakha.
love you all. Please continue.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. So maybe if people have thoughts that they want to share.
I just wanted to say that the anger and hate for each other is so constricting. It's such a burden on people. It's just so, what Rav Avi just presented is a tool and an opportunity to open our hearts, let go of that anger, and begin to understand that we are nothing without each other, that we are in it together, that we are Am Yisrael. And I'm hoping, I was in Israel recently, and I was there with the demonstrations and the thousands of people walking with the Israeli flag. And it was disconcerting.
Yes.
It's so important to let go and begin to understand we have a common interest. We have a common goal. Let go, let go.
Thank you so much. It's so beautiful. I think also what Rav Avi's tefillah, when he talks about the yuds, right, that I think part of what I hear you saying is like, of course, we're important to our own selves, but we're only one little yud, and the person next to us is also a little yud. And we need each other. We need each other. And there's a humility actually in what you're saying, in being able to let go of what I think is right and what I know, and letting love conquer. So it's really, really beautiful. Thank you. Does anyone else want to share some thoughts, some reflections on that beautiful tefillah?
Can we just?
I don't think that, we can ever come to that ideal to love every Jew. But maybe with that as our ultimate goal, could learn to care about every Jew and to help every Jew. And to say, well, he doesn't, believe the way I do. He doesn't practice Judaism the way I do. I don't think he's such a great person. But just remember, he's a Jew. Kol Yisrael arevim zelazeh.
Beautiful. It's beautiful, Tova. Thank you so much. It's making me think about the part in the tefillah where Rav Avi wrote about, the test of family is not whether we agree. It's not when we can be together and the points we agree. The test of family is when, in those moments of hardship, of dividedness, of disagreement, can we still say family trumps all, right? It's much more important to me that this person is my family than that they agree with me. And I think Rav Avi's tefillah really calls on us to say that, right? That's the primary value here, the family piece. And that has to always rule. Bracha. Yeah, please.
I'm also thinking that, since we have a primary value of everyone being created in the image of Hashem, and since Hashem is never ending and all encompassing, that means that people always, no matter where they find themselves, always have the potential for growth. So I don't think we're allowed to freeze frame someone based on who they are today. Because part of the intensity of some of the arguments is based on who we see someone as today. We have no way of knowing who they're going to be tomorrow.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, Bracha. Thank you so much for that idea, right? Like we're getting stuck in this moment, but the person's life trajectory is so long, and who knows whether they'll be able to change or how they have changed. So it's not really fair of us to judge them.
Yafa,
so beautiful.
it's
Hi, Rav Avi.
Yafa, it's Avi. There's one very important point I failed to mention, so I share it from the Uber. And I wanted to say the following, that Toby and I feel I'm living a dream. And I felt this powerfully the other week when Rabbi Stephen, my dear, dear Rabbi Stephen, spoke about the inclusion policy. When he finished that Shabbat morning, some of you may have been in shul, I was so moved. I couldn't, I just was glued to my chair. I couldn't move myself. And I realized that people who all go all the way back with the Bayit, we had a little dream. It was a dream. And for God to give us life, to be able to see how the dream is being taken to another level, truly what Rav Stephen has done, with the help, of course, of the complete rabbinic team, Rav Ezra, who means so much to us, and Rabbanit Bracha. It's a dream come true. The shul birthed Chovevei Torah and Rabbi Linzer and Sarah. Do you know that by next June, when 25 women graduate, there'll be more than 100 women with smicha, whom Sarah and Dove are educating with this philosophy of ahava. I didn't want to leave you until just expressing, as I did just this past Shabbat, my deep gratitude to Stephen, who truly is my rabbi. I'm so grateful to him for taking the vision to a new level and implementing it. It's thank you, Stephen. It's a dream come true. So with that, Yafa, take over.
Thank you, Rav Avi. It's a real honor, I have to say. It's an honor to get to facilitate a little bit in your shiur. Does anybody else have any thoughts that they want to share?
I want to say something. Did I say something?
Sure, please.
Okay. I've always given to Jewish causes and the UJA, and there's all I want. I spoke to my accountant, Avi Bloom, and he said, he said he would help me. His family also went to UJA and everything else. Now I had a what's me, and I had a great Taylor Britt band was my and I had Avi Curry's and now I have a time limit. I need a social worker. I'm alone now. My wife died. I'm just all alone, and I have some age. But I want a Jewish person to hear to speak with me, and they said my time is up because they have the rules for Jewish families for the services and UJA. I support UJA all my life. I asked them for help. They won't give it because my time is up. My time isn't up.
Stuart?
Everything I did. Yes.
Stuart, hi, it's Shuli.
Do you want to talk? Do you want to call me after the class and we can talk about this?
Yeah, because Rabbi is going to speak to the rabbi and give me a social worker. I need a person to speak to. I'm all alone. That's why, and I always support all. You know that.
I know, and Stuart, I also know that you have a lot of people in the community who care and who call you when they can and visit when they.
Speak to me as a social worker emotionally. I feel alone emotionally, and all I wanted was a social worker. That Taylor Bridget, she said, "Its time is up." My time isn't up.
Yes, you're right.
You're right.
You're right. Stuart, why don't you call me after the class so we can talk, okay?
Okay, yeah.
It's Shuli. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
Yafa,
yeah.
is there any
Yes,
way that
please.
you could share the prayer with us? Could someone send a copy, or Shuli, could you send a copy of the prayer to us?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's very significant, and I think it doesn't only apply to the Jewish community, unfortunately. I think it applies to globally, and I understand where the emphasis is on on Jews, but it's also lager, betocha. I mean, other people. We need to come together in many ways.
Absolutely. I think it's a very beautiful point that it's universal. So I think we're ending at 12, Shuli, is that right? Okay, so I do actually just want to leave you with one thought, a piece of just something I've been thinking about a lot recently, which is that, on Rosh Hashanah we have two kinds of blasts. One is the strong, long tekiah that is straight and unbroken, and one is the truah, which we end up saying is shvarim. It's truah. We have different versions of it, but it's a broken note. And before and after every truah, we do a tekiah, truah, right? Tekiah, shvarim, tekiah. And there's a beautiful message in there. There's a Hasidic teaching that teaches, the Sfas Emes teaches us, that what this means is effectively there's twice as many tekiyot as there are truot, as there are broken. There's twice as many unbroken notes as there are broken notes. And he says that that's to teach us that even when things look so hard and are so bad, things are broken in our world, there's twice as much good as there is brokenness. So even as we look around our world and we say there's so much divisiveness and there's so much pain and we don't know how to speak to each other, we also can say, but there's so much that unites us, as Rav Avi teaches us. There's so much that really brings us together, and there's so much that we agree about. And if we can focus on that, on the things that unite us, where we're not broken, where we're not divided, then we really can do what Rav Avi charges us to do, which is be radical and fanatic in our love for one another. So with that, I think I'll leave us and thank you all. Really, what an honor to take over from Rav Avi for a few minutes. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, and it should be a Shana Tova, beautiful, sweet year for all of you, your loved ones, your families, and only brachot in the coming year.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova to everybody. Yeah.